All right, good evening, everybody. This is the Fantasy Sports Boss. Welcome to Fantasy Football Live. It is Thursday, October 3rd, 2024, and we kick off Week 5 already tonight. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking on the Atlanta Falcons. It is Week 5. The season goes so fast. There's nothing like it in all of sports when you have a season that goes so quickly like the NFL does. I'm going to go through all the games, give you some thoughts, some scenarios, and synopsis on all the games as well. Which players I think are good starts, which players are in good standing right now in terms of their performance, and which players you should bench. But of course, if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. I haven't done a lot of streams lately. I've been very busy, but I thought tonight would be a good night to get on and chat with all of you. So again, if you're new, just hit that subscribe button. And of course, tonight we start with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Atlanta Falcons. The Bucs out to a 3-1 start. This is still a team that's building off of last year, the surprising postseason appearance last year. And, of course, they have Baker Mayfield playing well, who I believe is number 2 in fantasy scoring behind Alvin Kamara. And then you have the Atlanta Falcons, who are at 2-2, still trying to break in this Kirk Cousins offense. And, I with both teams not having the strongest defenses in the world, I think there's going to be quite a bit of points scored tonight. Hi, Aaron. How are you? And would I play Bucky Irving tonight? I don't think I would. I don't think it's the best matchup for him against a tough Atlanta Falcons run defense. Their passing defense is another story. But here's the thing that's interesting about the Atlanta Falcons is that all last year, one of the biggest themes that we've had here was that we would kill Arthur Smith almost every week. And it wasn't a difficult thing to do because, he completely underutilized Kyle Pitts and Bijan Robinson and Drake London, or so we thought. And the reason why I say this is because so far this season, a lot of the same things are happening with a new coaching staff. Kyle Pitts is still not catching passes. He put up a bagel last week. Drake London's been better, but he still hasn't exactly exploded. And Bijan Robinson and Tyler Allgeier are almost canceling each other out again in terms of carries or splitting carries between the two of them. And that's something we didn't think we would see again. So this is something that I think is overlooked to an extent. And honestly, Kyle Pitts should not be owned anywhere anymore. He's just a name brand. Like, there's no reason to own him anymore. And I actually think we're getting to that point with Mark Andrews. I wouldn't drop Mark Andrews yet, but Kyle Pitts, absolutely. Like, he's not doing anything. So unless you're the biggest Falcons homer in the world, you're dropping Kyle Pitts. Joe, my favorite running back stash remains Bucky Irving, no question. And I do like Braylon Allen as well. Jay, hey man, how are you? PPR League, rank these in order for this week. Deontay, London, and Wilson. I probably would rank them in that order. I think Deontay Johnson's going to have another huge week. He's been an absolute monster since Andy Dalton took over. I do like Drake London today because you can throw the ball on Tampa Bay. And Garrett Wilson is still struggling getting on the same page with Aaron Rodgers. And there's a lot of options now in this offense. Drop Pitts. Yeah, you listen. So getting back to Pitts and M. John, Trey Benson, you can hold on to him if you want, especially if you own James Conner. But Kyle Pitts has been nothing short of disastrous. And I don't know what happened there because he was a breathtaking talent when he was at the University of Florida. And even as a rookie, he put up a 1,000-yard season. Like, it just looked like that was going to be the floor going forward. And it has been nothing short of a disaster since. He's had injuries, massive underperformance. And in a year where pretty much all the tight ends are shitting the bed, there's no reason to hold on to him. We need to move on and pick up somebody that has a pulse. And Kyle Pitts just doesn't have it. Trade Mahomes for Love or Richardson. You know what? We're at that point with Mahomes, and I actually would consider it for Jordan Love. Like, I do think this Packers passing offense is insane, and we'll touch on them in a little bit. Richardson, I'm not a fan of, as you all know. He's more athlete than quarterback right now, and you're welcome, Mark. But yeah, so tonight, I think Drake London's going to be solid. You're starting Baker Mayfield. And as far as the Bucky Irving complete takeover of this backfield, I don't think we're there yet. I think this is a tough matchup against Atlanta, so I think, if you're in a deeper league as a flex, I think Bucky Irving certainly would be a decent enough play. We just got to make sure we're getting the touches here. Rachaad White has been awful. averaging just a little bit more than 2 yards per carry, which is comically inept. And again, I think it's just Bucky Irvin. It's only a matter of time before he's the dominant guy there. Kraft, the last hope for a tight end gem. I guess so. I'm not a Kraft guy either. But, listen, and that's the thing. There's been a lot of – it's very topsy-turvy in fantasy this year. I don't think there's any question. The top guys that we expected to perform are just not doing it, whether it's Patrick Mahomes, whether it's Bijan Robinson. Really the top 3 running backs haven't been doing it. Jalen Hurts, he hasn't been great either. It's Garrett Wilson. Like, there's just a lot of disappointment among these top players. And the tight end position has just been pathetic beyond belief. Trade Justice Hill for Dowdle. I would hold Justice Hill. I think he catches enough passes, and this is a usable offense for him to be in. But, yeah, it's been bad. And I know for me, like one team, I have a 4-0 team, a 3-1 team, and I have a 2-2 team that's going to be 2-3, and maybe even 2-4, because on that team alone, I've lost Cooper Kupp, I've lost Rashee Rice, who did get placed on IR today, and I've also had Trey McBride out last week, although I hope to get him back this week. Want to look at the injury report. Let me pull that up real quick, because that's always a big thing on Thursday. Superflex Kirk, Kenneth Walker, B-Rob. I would definitely play Kenneth Walker. I think he's coming off a huge game, and I really like that Seattle offense. All right, so Davante Adams not expected to play this week, and that's the thing. So does Davante Adams even play another game with the Raiders? I don't think so. I'm really truly believing that he's not going to play another game with this team. It sounds like the Jets are where he wants to go. And if you're a Garrett Wilson owner who's already dealing with a disappointing start to the season, this is not what you want to hear, because if Davante Adams ends up in this Jets offense, he's going to be the first read, not Garrett Wilson. And Garrett Wilson right now is having a real tough time getting on the same page as Aaron Rodgers. Like, it's just not working out. So I think that there's a lot of trouble. All right. What do you think between Seahawks D against the I would go with the Seahawks D 100%. The Giants don't play well in Seattle. They never do. And like you said, Malik Neighbors is going to possibly be out. But as far as Garrett Wilson, it is not good. Like, it has not been good at all. And now Davante Adams, I think, is going to end up there. I know the Bills and the Steelers are kicking the tires there. Parkinson's for Pitts. That's amazing. We're talking about Colby Parkinson. I mean, he caught more passes than Kyle Pitts last week, so I guess on that alone, yes. But this is something that we're going to have to pay attention to. The Chiefs do not seem like they're involved with Davante Adams, and I don't think the Raiders would trade him in the division. All right, no Joe Mixon again. So like that ankle injury has turned out to be quite serious. This is going to be his 3rd straight missed game. He's an older player. So we're going to get more Cam Akers this week. If you want to play him, be my guest. But I don't think he's going to be playing this week, talking about Joe Mixon, who's been very, very disappointing, although he had that huge week 1. Kendry Miller. Let me just look at some of these obvious ones. All right, so Brian Robinson didn't practice for the 2nd day today due to a knee injury. So Brian Robinson, who's been terrific, he's been like a Derrick Henry light for the Washington Commanders. And how about this Washington Commanders offense? As much crap as Cliff Kingsbury has gotten over the years, going back to his time at the Arizona Cardinals, he has crafted really good offenses. And as we've seen here with Jaden Daniels, how great he's played. Brian Robinson's playing good. Terry McLaurin has caught fire the last couple of weeks. This offense works. But we got to watch what's going on with Brian Robinson. Austin Eckler returned to full status at practice, so he could start and could help. You definitely could use him as a running back too if you need to put him in there. But, as long as you don't expect the old vintage version of Austin Eckler. But I think Brian Robinson is one of the top guys that we got to take a look at tomorrow. Malik Neighbors and Devin Singletary did not practice. Singletary with a groin. Malik Neighbors, concussion protocol. It doesn't sound like either one of them are going to be able to go. I think Singletary with a slightly better chance. If Singletary doesn't go, you've got Tyrone Tracy, the converted wide receiver from Purdue. I wouldn't use him unless you're really desperate. Rashee Rice placed on IR. So there's a lot of conspiracy theories out there about Are they keeping him on the active roster because of the suspension that they think is coming, and they want to get it over with this year? I don't know. But the Rashee Rice situation, it's a big disappointment, but we still don't have confirmation if he has torn his ACL. All right, we have a $4.99 super chat from Joe Castles. Thank you, Joe. Always very generous of you. Pick one for the stash. Audric Estime or Kendre Miller or Keaton Mitchell. I would stash Juju. I absolutely would, because, again, they have to throw to somebody. And Xavier Worthy is simply not consistent enough. Out of all the guys, whether it's Justin Watson, Juju, I think Juju Smith-Schuster would be the guy I would pick up. And as far as Estime or Miller or Mitchell, I would go with Estime. It sounds like this coaching staff is completely down on Kendre Miller and Keaton Mitchell. There's two really good players ahead of him. I wouldn't use him. Anthony Richardson was limited. Jonathan Taylor did not practice with his high ankle sprain. I know they tried to poo-poo that injury. Oh, he's going to be, it's not as serious as we thought, but it's still a high ankle sprain. I don't think Jonathan Taylor is playing. So Trey Sermon, you want to put him out there, be my guest. I'm not going to do that. For me, with Anthony Richardson, his status is a little bit murky. Why not put Joe Flacco in there, right? Why not? We saw how good the offense played when Flacco got in there. He could still sling it. We saw what he did the second half of the year with the Browns. Joe Flacco is like that guy who can just lift up all of the receiving options on an offense. He did it with the Browns last year with Amari Cooper and David Njoku. He did it last week with Michael Pittman and Josh Downs. How about that game Josh Downs had? I picked him up. In my league where I don't have Rashee Rice and Cooper Kupp, I picked up Josh Downs and Dontavian Wicks. I'm starting both of them. All right, Josh Downs in the slot is right there in the lead in the NFL in terms of how much separation he generates. So Josh Downs has that ability to gain separation quickly, and I think he's somebody that should be started, especially if Flacco starts. If Flacco is in there, I'm playing Michael Pittman, who went over 100 yards. Like, if you're a Michael Pittman owner, you want Flacco in there. To play Brees against the Vikings in the international game, you have to. You're committed, Steve. You got to play him. And I'll get to Brees in a second. Any other injuries? So, yeah, Jonathan Taylor, that's another one we have to look at tomorrow. Taysom Hill's fractured ribs. He wasn't doing much of anything anyway, even when he was on the field. All right. Will Levis is not going to play, but we knew that. Somebody dropped Andrews. Yeah, it's amazing that Mark Andrews was dropped. David Njoku also didn't practice today. Maybe he didn't bounce back as well from his injury. Now, you brought up Breece Hall. So I know that, listen, the draft equity on Breece Hall and Bijan Robinson, for that matter, because he's almost in the same boat. You have to play both guys. And Breece Hall's fantasy points, last week notwithstanding, on a weekly basis, have been good. He's catching a lot of passes. He's scoring touchdowns. And he's got 3 total touchdowns. But he looks like a complete dog when it comes to short yardage and goal line situations. And like I said in the video last week, as soon as he faces some sort of resistance when running up the gut, he just decides, I'm going to take a seat. He doesn't fight for yardage. And DH, I would go Wicks for sure. And Mark, I wouldn't start Akers either. Breece Hall is playing horribly right now in terms of running the football. I don't know what it is. He was amazing the second half of last year. The kid out of Wisconsin's playing his balls off. I really, really like him. He's one of the top stashes in the game. It's just puzzling to me. He's got so much talent, talking about Breece Hall, and now he gets a very tough Minnesota Vikings defense this year. And you talk about, stories of the season, the Minnesota Vikings and Sam Darnold. And now the Vikings are going to have a tough choice on their hands. Do they re-sign Sam Darnold at the end of the year? Do they trade J.J. McCarthy? Like, this is fascinating to me. Darnold is setting himself up for a huge payday. He is the new Geno Smith, a guy who bombed out with the Jets, ironically, both of them, went somewhere else, got some better coaching, and now is really, really flourishing. The talent is coming to the surface. But he's played so well that you almost have to re-sign him. So then do the Vikings trade J.J. McCarthy? They'll get a first-round pick for J.J. McCarthy. Hell, I think the Giants should trade for J.J. McCarthy. That was somebody that they really liked. So that's fascinating to me. And Justin Jefferson, we all, and I did this too, we all automatically figured, okay, he's got Sam Darnold as his quarterback who has no history of supporting a wide receiver one. We're going to have to put him behind Amon-Ra St. Brown. I even saw him going after, Garrett Wilson. And I didn't argue them, or even A.J. Brown, and I didn't really push back on that. But now his performance, and he's scored a touchdown in all 4 games, has to completely convince all of us that he's completely quarterback proof. Yes, Steve, you would have done better than Braley and Allen for sure. And as far as Darnold and Lawrence, you're still starting Darnold. He's just way too hot. All right, Carolina against Chicago. I talked about yesterday in the video. All 3 of these Chicago receivers are completely being neutered right now in this awful Shane Waldron offense. It's been bad. The flip side is Andy Dalton has completely reinvigorated the Carolina Panthers. And how about this? Chuba Hubbard, he might be one of the most underrated running backs in all of football. And I admit it took me a while to come around on him. Not a very explosive guy. His metrics were never very glowing. But since the midway point of last year to this year, he has been a consistently top 12 guy week in and week out. And he's been even better than that this year. He's catching the ball out of the backfield. No sign of when Jonathan Brooks is going to return. Hubbard's playing really well. And Deontay Johnson has gone ballistic. And all it took was putting Dalton in there. I was a big fan of Deontay coming into the year. I did that video where I said he could lead the NFL in targets. Well, that's not going to happen now because of the 2 games wasted with Bryce Young. But Deontay Johnson is playing like a low-end wide receiver 1 in fantasy. I don't think Singletary's going to go, Mark. Hi, John. PPR pick 2, Pittman, Odunze, Bucky, or Jewel. Definitely Pittman, and I can't go with Dunze in this offense. But I'd have to say Bucky. Hunter Achane this week. I'm going Hunt. I don't want anything to do with these Dolphins. And speaking of the Dolphins, they're playing the New England Patriots. They're going to run it back with Tyler Huntley. Listen, if his name wasn't Tyreek Hill, you would probably bench him. Jalen Waddle should be benched. Devin Achane, you got to play him, but he's facing 8 guys in the box now every time he touches the ball. This is a huge problem for Achane owners. This is a huge problem for Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle owners. This whole season is falling into the gutter quickly. And I'm not sure the Dolphins are going to have nor should they, the stones to put Tua back out there with those awful, scary concussions that he's had. All right, we have a $4.99 super chat from Zach Lockwich. Thank you, Zach. I really appreciate that. I have Gibbs, Achane, Mixon, and then Chase, Neighbors, Reed Smith, and Scary Terry. I was thinking trade Reed for Monty in case Gibbs gets hurt. You know what? Jaden Reed has been so good. That's hard for me to do. I would try to trade Terry instead. I don't want to trade Jaden Reed, Zach. He's been a wide receiver 1 with Jordan Love. So I would strongly suggest trying Terry McLaurin, which that might get it done for Monty. And yes, that's a good idea. And here's another thing. And thank you for the super chat, Zach. David Montgomery, anytime touchdown has hit, I believe, in 15 of the last 18 games. It's like an automatic bet, right? So that's something to consider. But yes, this Miami offense is so bad right now. They're going to get to a point where they might just shut it down. Do they trade people? I don't know what's going to happen. But if you got to be sick. And again, remember, I told you, I faded Hill last year and this year. Last year it didn't look so good because he went crazy. But I did the same thing this year because I did not trust Tua's health. I knew it was one hit away for for things to go completely by the wayside, and that's what's happened. You have to always evaluate your receivers when you use a first-round pick on a receiver, the durability of the quarterback. Now, injuries can strike anybody, but Tua has a pronounced injury history, and that's why I faded Tyreek Hill and drafted Amon-Ra St. Brown ahead of him in one of my leagues. Hi, Garrett, Bucky, Irvin. You're welcome, John. Rashad White or Alexander Madison. I still got to go Rashad White there. All right, Cincinnati and Baltimore. This is a fascinating game to me. Joe Burrow is playing great. I knew he would. It was only a matter of time. T. Higgins got involved last week. Jamar Chase is playing well. Like, this offense is really starting to take off. And you have both Zach Moss and Chase Brown contributing. Chase Brown's not taking over this offense yet. Zach Moss has played way too good for that to change. They're going to split time going forward, but Chase Brown should have been added everywhere. Lamar Jackson's playing great. Like, now that he's another season into this new offense, he is playing unbelievable football. And I admit I shied away from him, even though he helped me win a league last year, because I wasn't sure how much running he was going to do with Derrick Henry. He's not getting the goal line carries, but he's doing just enough everywhere else to perform really, really well. And then we all know the Mark Andrews situation. He's got no catches each of the last 2 games. I don't know what's going on. Has he just gotten really old this quickly? It's possible. You can't play him anywhere. Washington, break up the Commanders. Jaden Daniels, do we have? There's already whispers about Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels being the next Bryce Young, Bryce Young situation and CJ Stroud situation in terms of 1-2, the top pick going bust. Caleb Williams is really quirky. He paints his nails. He carries a purse. Like, it just invites unnecessary attention in a negative way. He kind of does it to himself. I don't care. He can do whatever he wants, but it's gonna bring forth negative attention. And I think that just adds to the stress on a rookie young quarterback. And when you surround this guy with Keenan Allen, Rome Odunze, DJ Moore, Cole Kmet, and he still plays this poorly, alarm bells are going off. Jaden Daniels, on the other hand, I've never seen, maybe since Troy Aikman, I have never seen a quarterback this accurate in my lifetime to begin a career. It's staggering. He's even more impressive so far than CJ Stroud last year because he's running all over the place as well. And yes, you benched Mahomes for Daniels. Absolutely. This is phenomenal stuff. And Brian Robinson, who's banged up, he's been playing really well too. And scary Terry McLaurin is being unlocked as well. Jacksonville, Indianapolis, 0-4 Jaguars. I'm taking the hit on Trevor Lawrence. Totally taking a hit on it. All right. I don't have any answers anymore on this. I don't know what's going on. Steve, I would play Love. Baltimore defense made Josh Allen look silly last week. I don't have any answers for Jacksonville. Now, Christian Kirk's playing better. Last 2 weeks, he's been that PPR guy again. Evan Ingram, they need him back. We've got 1 total catch from Evan Ingram. We need him back. So this is all stuff we need to get back on track for the Jaguars, for this offense to have any hope. And Travis Etienne hasn't exactly been great either. Like, nobody's playing well. On the Indy side, we already talked about Indy. We want Joe Flacco to start this one. Buffalo, Houston, the Bills will be fine. Josh Allen, 2 monster games, 2 quiet ones so far this year. Khalil Shakir is banged up. I don't know if he's going to go. But, and even Dalton Kincaid, we talk about the tight ends. He hasn't been that good. Houston, on the other hand, Nico Collins, to me, is a top 5 wideout. He is a top 5 wideout in fantasy. No questions asked. And Stephon Diggs is playing well too, though. Diggs is actually playing like a low-end wide receiver 1. Now, this is not the Buffalo version of Diggs, but he's playing well. So I think that, Diggs has been better than we anticipated. Tank Dell has been worse than anticipated. Ready for tonight? Yes, Rain, I'm ready. What do you think about me flexing Bucky Irvin? I have Chris Godwin. I wouldn't flex. If you have better options, I wouldn't. It's not the easiest matchup for him. And, of course, when you get off to a bad start on Thursday, it stings a little extra. I'm not starting Bucky Irvin in any of my leagues. I'm starting Javonte Williams over him because he's playing the Raiders, and that's the next game. Las Vegas Raiders, the worst team in the entire NFL at stopping the run. no Beatty, the guy who got hurt last week for Denver. So I think Javonte Williams is actually set for a decent game here, and he was solid last week against the Jets in tough conditions and a tough against a tough defense. Yeah, I would definitely Rain do that. Xavier Worthy instead. Las Vegas, Devontae Adams not playing. I gave you Trey Tucker last week. I hope you listened. Put him right back out there because Jacoby Myers is getting Patrick Surtain. It's going to be a lot of Trey Tucker targets. Arizona, San Francisco, a really big dud from the Cardinals last week. They get Trey McBride back this week. I think they'll be okay. For the 49ers, George Kittle's banged up, has not practiced yet this week. So we got to watch that. Seems like he's hurt every game. No sign anytime soon of Christian McCaffrey. Jordan Mason's been a top 3 running back. And how about that? If you were lucky enough to get Jordan Mason, it's almost like stealing in fantasy. He's been that amazing this season. Mark Harrison Jr. playing better as well for the Cardinals. Green Bay, Los Angeles, start Jaden Reed, start Dontavian Wicks, start Josh Jacobs, who hasn't exactly lit up the scoreboard either. But Jacobs is averaging over 4. I think he's at 4.6, so he's actually running the ball well. So I would start all of those guys against Los Angeles who's just trying to get by until they get Cooper Kupp back. They have a bye next week. I'm hoping the next week after that they'll be okay. Hey, Death Lord, how are you? Puzzy Monster, what do you think of Vikings running back and QB this week? I love both. Hey, it's Aaron Jones. If you know anything about me, you know I love Aaron Jones. I have a very bad infatuation with him. Seattle and the Giants. Giants are going to get crushed. You can put Wan'Dale Robinson in there because he's going to catch a lot of targets with no Malik Neighbors. This is going to get ugly. I'm not starting Tyrone Tracy if Devin Singletary doesn't go. Seattle's going to coast in this one. Dallas and Pittsburgh. Justin Fields playing good. I said he was sitting there on waivers. I hope you listened to me and you picked him up when you did. Drake London, I'm starting tonight. Death Lord. All right, and finally, Kansas City and New Orleans. Saints have cooled off a bit. They absolutely could win this game. Patrick Mahomes, I gave you all the stats yesterday. He's just not playing well and not putting up the points that he should. And you can't really blame him because of how much he's missing out of this offense. So that's the situation there. But anyway, guys, I'm going to end it here. I got the game coming on tonight. I also have the Mets because I'm a big Met fan. That's game 3 there. Thank you for tuning in. Glad I was able to do the stream. I'm aiming to do another one Sunday morning, so stay tuned for that. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Enjoy the game. And, of course, if there's anything noteworthy tonight, I will send a video out on that and a wrap-up tomorrow morning. Take care, everybody. Enjoy the game.